Hello, and welcome to this Family University presentation about our new K-5 math adoption. We have adopted McGraw-Hill Reveal Math. So whether you are attending this on Thursday, the October 17th presentation, or you're watching this asynchronously after the fact, welcome, and I hope you learn a lot today. I am Amy Bloom. I'm the K-12 math coordinator for Racine Unified.
And I'm Amy Shepard, Director of Assessment, Curriculum, and Instruction for Cluster 1.
So Racine Unified has a vision for K-5 mathematics. So we want all of our elementary students to have this kind of vision for mathematics. What I want you to do is take a moment and read this definition or this vision mission statement, and I want you to pick out words that really stand out to you. So here's some of the ones that really stand out to me. We want our learners to be confident. We want them to be capable math learners and doers. We want them to have curiosity. We want them to spark joy and creativity in them. And we want them to develop a love for problem solving. So it's not just about learning and doing the math. It's about having that innate number sense to be confident enough and curious enough to attack a problem and try to solve it even though you maybe don't know exactly what's happening, but that also has that spark of joy or creativity in you that you want to keep trying. So it's really important to have high quality content. It matters to our teachers, it matters to our kids, and it matters to our collective future. So, in the process of adopting this new resource, we used a lot of different materials to help us make this decision. We brought together a committee of teachers and administrators and special ed teachers and just lots of different people from our district. We even had some parents on that committee, and they helped us review all of the different options that we were given for this adoption process. Another tool that we used was edreports.org. This is a website that is not attached to any of the curriculum resources, and they independently review all of the curriculum adoptions across these three gateways. So gateway 1 is that the material meets the expectations for focus and coherence, meaning that it meets the standards, the grade level standards as set by Wisconsin state standards. Gateway 2 is that the material meets the expectations for rigor and practice content connections. So this means that it meets at grade level and is keeping the practice problems and things like that rigorous to continue to challenge our students. And then Gateway 3, which they only review Gateway 3 if the product meets Gateway 1 and 2. But Gateway 3 talks about meeting the expectations for usability. So usability for our teachers, but also usability for our students. So as you can see, the product that we have adopted is McGraw-Hill Reveal Math. And according to this independent report through EdReports, it meets for all 6 elementary grade levels very high rankings across all 3 gateways. Interestingly enough, we actually also have adopted McGraw-Hill Reveal Math for our secondary math as well. That happened the previous school year. So we now have a coherent math program from kindergarten all the way through Algebra 2. So our students over the course of their math careers in RUSD are going to have access to a coherent program across all of those grade levels. All right, so what's included in this, right? So we have some physical resources and some digital resources. The images here are the student books. So that's what the student workbook looks like at each grade level. Each student has a 2-volume workbook. And in this book, they do some of the learning activities and like note taking almost. But then there's also some practice problems. There's some activities, there's some number talks, there's all these different pieces all embedded right into that workbook. Additionally, students have a secondary workbook for extra practice. So if a student is struggling, or the teacher's like, oh, we just need a little bit more practice on this, they can assign the page that aligns to the unit from that book, as opposed to having to go and search for something on the internet that maybe isn't exactly what we're looking for. Students also, actually teachers too, have access to the digital dashboard of things. So when they log into their ClassLink, you're going to look for that Connected Ed app. That's our McGraw-Hill app. And then within there, students have access to not only the digital resource for the instructional materials or the textbook, but they also have access to what is called ALEX or ALEX Adventure, depending on the grade, which is a digital platform to provide extra practice. It kind of assesses the student where they're at and then creates a pathway for that student based on what they're ready to learn at those grade level materials. So the content's always going to be grade level, but it also is going to scaffold to help support students access grade level material. So our first and second grade students have ALEX Adventure. It's just a little bit more gamified. And the following school year, kindergarten will also have ALEX Adventure. McGraw-Hill is currently developing that program. ALEX Adventure is new program to them this year, as opposed not. It's also new to us, but it's new to them this year. It's their first year of implementation. So they're still developing the kindergarten version, but in the following school year, we will have that. Our grades 3 through 5, and actually 3 through Algebra 2, have access to ALEX, which is, like I said, a digital platform to help students create a pathway through those grade level materials that link to their course. That just provides a little bit more practice for them. All right, so all of our units begin with a unit launch. There is an Ignite activity that really gets student thinking about the possible math and the real life connections that it's going to have with them. There's also these pages where what we call the STEM career kids. So each unit in each different grade level starts with these STEM career kids, where they introduce themselves, they talk about a STEM career they're interested in, and how that has to connections with real life mathematics. So there's some pages in their book about that, but then there's also these STEM career kid videos or STEM in action videos. So teachers can play these videos where this STEM career kid like character introduces and talks about the math connections that they're going to be learning about during that unit of study. Every lesson starts with number sense making and inquiry. So there are these Be Curious pages at the start of every daily lesson. Some of them are like, how are they the same? How are they different? Like this one. Some of them are like, which one doesn't belong? Some of them, you're really just looking for good patterns or solving things like that. So it's really a chance to make some connections to some of the work that they're doing in their literacy classes too. That like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? So like those are a lot of the same questions that come up during these Be Curious beginning of lessons. But then it has that math flair of what they're looking at. There's also a number routine at the start of every lesson, and this usually links to what it is that they're going to learn in that daily lesson. So this particular one is a 5th grade lesson, and students, it's a drag and drop activity. So they have to estimate on that open number line where 3/10 would be. So on the first number line, they're estimating where 3/10 would go between 0 and 1/2 or 5/10. And then on the second number line, they're estimating where it would go between 0 and 1. So they would just grab that little blue ball and drag it up to where they think that estimate is on that number line. I've seen teachers do this activity on their smartboard, and like each student got to come up and drag the dot and like see where they all thought they would go. I've seen them do it whole group where like they had to come to an agreement. But what I really like about these types of activities is that it asks our students to make ask some questions, right? Like they have to ask some questions. They have to make some decisions. They have to justify the reasoning behind that. So then, after they've done that like launch and all of those pieces, this is kind of what the daily lessons look like. There's this learn page where like the teacher would go through this learn page with their students, explaining the lesson, doing some examples, really hitting hard like the goal of the daily lesson. Then there's that work together at the bottom of the first page where they would kind of tackle a problem together. I would really see teachers using this kind of as a turn and talk opportunity. Like, okay, try this problem on your own. Now turn to a neighbor and talk about the process, not just the answer, but the process. And then let's come together and have a whole group discussion. So then the next two pages, that's like the practice assignment, and that's already in the student book. So students have this in their books. Teachers can assign, the specific problems that they want their students to do. Again, if they think they need more practice, there is a secondary practice workbook that has some extra practice of this same skill. There's also some ways within our resource to differentiate this. So we can take it back a step and maybe have some where there's only one decimal place instead of two decimal places, and some scaffolding to help students understand these addition and subtraction problems. But there's also some to extend their learning. So if a student's really got it, we want to continue to challenge them to apply this to a new level. So like I said, there are some different ways here that we can, if our students need more practice, right, or they need more support, there is this spiral review. So all of these examples came from the kindergarten book. So throughout my presentation here, my examples have come from different grade levels. Like this lesson here is a 5th grade lesson, but then this came from kindergarten. But it's available for all grade levels. So one thing that we have is this spiral review activity. The spiral review hits topics that are related to what the students are learning, but maybe something they've learned in a previous lesson or maybe even a previous grade level that's going to help support that learning. There's a reinforce understanding. So like I said, if a student is really struggling, this reinforce activity is going to kind of break it down and give them a little bit more scaffolding. And then there's that additional practice in that secondary book. I've really suggested that students send these pages home because if you look at the very bottom, there's an at-home math activity at the bottom of these pages. So if a student is at home and you as the parent want to help them continue to expand their math learning, you can do some of these math at home activities. The one last thing I want to talk about is each of these lessons through the digital dashboard also has what's called a math replay video. So these are videos that were created by the vendors that kind of reteach the skill, but maybe in a different way than the teacher has taught it. So if we have a student who needs a little bit of extra support, they can watch that video and get the lesson like a second time. But again, we want to be able to continue to challenge our students. If a student has it, we don't want them to be stagnant and have to stay where they're at. We want them to continue to grow. So one of the activities is an extended thinking. So each lesson has an extended thinking activity where they would take a lesson further, but still on grade level topic. It just kind of extends the thinking to more challenging numbers or an unknown situation. And then we also have these application station cards. So each module or unit, has an application station card. It's in English and Spanish. And so these are activities that students can do like at a center or maybe as a challenge. They extend the thinking a little bit further than what the practice problems do. So another piece that came with all of these, each teacher was given a set of math manipulatives that align to the learning. Most classrooms got like a tub A and a tub B, full of class sets of math manipulatives that they can be using with their students. There's this game station resource book, and those are full of like center activities basically. And then we have our application station cards, like I mentioned, and all of that came in this other kit of like a workstation activities for teachers. So all of those extra practice worksheets or extended thinking or application stations or all these centers and like how to use the manipulatives all came for teachers inside this other kit of how to extend beyond just the workbook practice. Another really great thing about our new Reveal Math is that there's a lot of built-in family communication. So if you are asking about what I can do to help at home, these are the family letters that go home for every unit. Again, you have the little STEM career kid talking to you about the lesson. It tells you what you're going to focus on during that unit of study. And then it gives you some of the vocabulary, that important math vocabulary that we want our students to be able to use. And then again, it gives you some sample problems of what students are going to be learning that you can kind of help support at home. But again, there's a math at home activity, and this is different than the other math at home activities that are on the other pages. So again, there's just some little pieces that you can help do at home if you're really wanting to help your student continue to learn math outside of the school day. Additionally, you can go on the Connected Ed app. Those math replay videos are always available to students to find through the app, even if the teachers haven't assigned them. But you can also then do ALEKS or ALEKS Adventure at home as well. So if students are looking for ways to continue their math focus, that's a really great opportunity, as you can have them log into through their class link on a computer at home, and they can get into ALEKS or ALEKS Adventure and just do a little bit of extra practice at home. All right, so then we also have different forms of assessments. So within the student book, there are already built-in unit reviews. The teachers can assign these digitally, and so then students would do it on computer, and it really kind of mirrors the forward exam in that it's very tech enhanced. There's like drag and drop pieces, or there's drop down menus, or things like that they'll see on the forward exam. But then this is also print friendly. It's already in their student workbooks as well. Each unit has a performance task embedded into it. So again, these are those like multi-part kind of tasks that we would want our students to be able to do, really grapple with an application of the math. But then there are just the very traditional paper pencil assessments. And so teachers can kind of choose which ones really fit their learning for their students. All right, so I mentioned forward exam. Our 3rd through 5th graders take the state test, the forward exam. These are some blueprints that were sent out by Department of Public Instruction. And these basically break down the assessment into those domain headers and about how many questions are going to be there for each question type, basically. So like if we're looking at the 3rd grade one, operations and algebraic thinking is the reporting category. And there's going to be 13 to 15 questions on the forward exam that deals with that domain header. So there's these for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. You can find them for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as well if you're looking for those. But what we've done is at RUSD, we have changed from the superhero standards to the math domains. So if you remember back to last year or previously, we had superhero standards in the grade book. So when you went to check on your students' grades, you would see specific standards that we thought were like the most important ones at each grade level. And those were the ones that then contributed towards the grade. But we ran into some problems because our students are learning all of the grade level standards and our teachers are teaching all of them. So what we've done is we've gone and changed how what the categories are in Infinite Campus. So we're not going to use the superhero standards anymore. Instead, we're going to use those math domains as our reporting categories. So here you see across the top the grade levels, and then down below that are all of the categories. Counting and cardinality is only in kindergarten. You see that operations algebraic thinking goes across all 6, kindergarten through 5th grade, and that the fractions operations don't come in until 3rd grade. So what's really great about this is if you go back to these blueprints, you'll notice that the domain headers here and the forward exam reporting categories are the same as our reporting categories now in Infinite Campus. So it really helps break down those standards into these domains and how the students are going to be assessed and kind of where they're performing at each of those domain bands. All right, so if you go to the public portal for the curriculum website, so there is a public portal, and here, like if you clicked on elementary, it would get you to each grade level page. I have updated the K through 5 math sites. So if this is the example from 5th grade. There are a few really great things here. First of all, it's a picture of the book, so you know what the book looks like again. There are topic and lesson overviews. So if you click on the image in that first column there, you're going to get to a document that lists all of the units and their titles, but then all of the lessons that are specifically underneath that one. That middle column there, those are those parent letters that I showed you. So teachers might be sending them home. They might be attaching them to emails. They should be sharing them in some way, but in case they're not, here's where you can find them for each unit for your student's grade level. They're available in English and Spanish. Actually, what's really great about this program, and one of the reasons that we also picked it, is that all of the materials outside of the STEM Career Kid videos are available in English and Spanish. So everything that I have shared with you today in this presentation is also available in Spanish for our dual language classrooms, for our students who maybe need to see it in English and Spanish, right? If they're an ESL student and need that support. And then the last column there, these are from a program called Math Milestones. They work very closely with Department of Instruction. These are tasks that support each standard of that grade level that your student really should be able to do by the end of the year. So it's a great opportunity, again, just for a little bit of math at home. If you go to this public portal, you're able to access this for each grade level. And it's just a great opportunity to see a little bit of math at home. All right. At this time, I'm open for questions. My email address is there, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Amy Bloom, and I am the K-12 Math Coordinator in RUSD.